Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Ron.
Ron is here, everyone. Welcome back for more SPTV, where every day is a great day not to be in a cult. Speaking of being in a cult, Rebecca Minkoff. Now, guys, first of all, I do recognize how splotchy I look. I think it's a bug bite, guys. I don't know what's going on. But let's get down to business. Rebecca Minkoff. Rebecca Minkoff's in a cult. Scientologist, Rebecca Minkoff. Rebecca Minkoff is one of the new cast members of The Real Housewives of New York. I have been, a lot of you out there have been asking me to do content, to do a video about Rebecca Minkoff for a long time now. And I haven't, because I haven't been able to do enough homework to do it justice. However, a headline came across my desk today that led me down a tiny little rabbit hole, and I finally have enough to at least share some stuff with you. Now, when you have Scientologist Rebecca Minkoff spilling the tea on Scientology and Danny Masterson, what you really have, anytime you have a Scientologist talking about Scientology, you have someone who is only spouting out rehearsed, practiced, pre-approved lines of total BS designed to obfuscate. And that is exactly what we've got from Rebecca Minkoff. Now, because I don't actually watch The Real Housewives of New York, I was not aware that Rebecca Minkoff was actually being open about being a Scientologist. I thought she was doing one of these cute little things where she pretends like it was just her parents' thing and it was never something that she was involved in. When I went down this little rabbit hole this afternoon, I was surprised to find out that she does actually admit that she's a Scientologist. I've known Rebecca since I was a teenager, not very well, just in the same social circle. But I do know Rebecca's family quite well. I know her father, I know her mother, I know her two brothers better than I know her. However, what Rebecca has done is one of these things that Scientology asks its celebrities to do, which is to pretend that you're not just a Scientologist. You're also a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim or a Hindu or whatever. And I'm going to share with you like a 4-minute clip that hopefully I don't get struck for using from Bravo. A 4-minute clip where Rebecca says something like this. And I want to point out that it's pretty interesting that from 1991 to 1993, Scientology was working with the IRS to get its tax-exempt status back. Scientology originally had tax exemption in 1957. They lost it in 67. And then in 1991, thereabouts, they finally got the IRS to come back to the table to take another look at that tax exempt status. As a part of that process, Scientology tried to pull this, Scientology's compatible with all belief systems. You can be a Scientologist and be a member of any other religion as well. And the IRS said, huh? They're like, I don't know if you know how this works, but if you can be a member of your religion and any other religion, then you're not a real religion. And then Scientology was like, oh, wait. Our bad. We had that wrong. What we really meant to say was in the beginning, when you walk in our doors, you can be a Scientologist and be a member of any of these other groups. But as you progress up in Scientology, you definitely are required to just be a Scientologist. So keep that in mind when you see this clip from Rebecca Minkoff on The Real Housewives of New York. And I've got this queued up. And here we go. I'm going to stop it to make some comments here, but here we go.
Gavin's dad converted when Gavin was 9 or 10.
Oh.
So he's Jewish.
Boom. Okay, I know I'm stopping right there. I'm going to drive you all crazy. You notice that she didn't say Gavin is Jewish, her husband. She didn't specifically say that. She said Gavin's dad converted to Judaism when her husband was 9. Judaism, my understanding is that it's actually passed down, if you're ethnically Jewish, through the mother, not the father. Now, I did look up, has Rebecca Minkoff, what is it called, converted to Judaism? And the answer I found on the internet, I don't know if it's true, says yes. So all I'm saying is she's being interestingly careful with her words. Let's keep going.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah.
How, does it work for you? Just because I know we always talk about being Jewish, but
Yeah.
How does it work being Jewish and a Scientologist?
Yeah. So being Jewish is my religion,
Right.
obviously. And then the other one is really an applied philosophy that, like, when it gets rough, that's where I can get tools to help me with communication, with the stress of life, like dealing with kids, a business.
But I guess it's not really a religion.
It is amazing to see a Scientologist, while even in the process of pretending to be Jewish, which, by the way, there are Jewish Scientologists, but they're ethnically or culturally Jewish. They do not practice Judaism. In the 30 years I was in Scientology, there's two types of Scientologists, ones who celebrate Christmas and ones who celebrate Hanukkah. And no matter which one of those categories you're in, you're only celebrating the holiday for the celebration of the holiday, not for the religious meaning of it. There is no such thing as a practicing Jew who is also a Scientologist. There is no such thing as a practicing Christian who's also a Scientologist. You would actually get in trouble for doing that, speaking from, firsthand knowledge on that. But it is interesting to see a Scientologist in the process of pretending to be Jewish actually describe Scientology in a way that's not a religion. How does it work being both a Jewish and a Scientologist? Well, being Jewish is my religion, and Scientology is this other thing. I feel like the IRS would like to have a conversation with you, Rebecca, to truly understand what Scientology really is. All right, let's keep going.
It is in the fact that everyone hears the word religion and they're like, God, worship, right?
Right.
But there's also anything spiritual in nature.
Right, yeah.
So you could go as far as to say that going to Soul Cycle is a spiritual experience for you, right?
Okay, did this lifelong Scientologist just compare Scientology and its religious nature or religious quality to something like a gym, Soul Cycle? It's a spiritual experience. Even Scientologists don't truly believe that Scientology is a religion.
I'm not that into Soul Cycle.
I'm not either, but I'm just making,
Yeah.
So like there's no worship or prayer. It's like tools to help you.
Right.
And that's kind of it. I think that it's unfortunate that there are a lot of stereotypes out there that are people who don't have the right information, are working with inadequate data. And I would just ask people to go check it out for yourself, whether it is reading a book, going online, watching the TV station about it.
Okay, I gotta jump in. Why is it that you can find a ton of former Scientologists on YouTube talking about Scientology, talking about their experience, explaining aspects of Scientology, but you won't find a single current active Scientologist doing that, engaging with the internet in real time, long form, live? Okay. The answer is that Scientologists aren't allowed to. It's always so ironic to see Scientologists encourage you to go find out for yourself, but don't pay attention to all that hateful information on the internet. Why aren't Scientologists putting out the true information on the internet? Scientology knows that if it cannot very, very carefully and closely control the narrative, it will be game over for Scientology. So does Scientology have a YouTube channel? Yes. Are there a ton of videos on there? Yes. Do they actually explain in an honest way what Scientology is? No, of course not. And Scientology knows that the videos don't really honestly explain it, which is why they sure as hell don't want Scientologists on the internet, especially live, especially long form, being confronted about things about Scientology in a way where they have to be honest. Scientology doesn't want Scientologists to be honest. And that's why you'll find 20 people like me on YouTube, but you'll find 0 people like Rebecca on YouTube. Here we go.
When you say, like, go read a book, obviously, like, in my mind, the first book that comes to mind is Going Clear.
Don't read that book. When I was born, my parents were just finding out about it, but it was
really?
Yeah, but it was my choice. When I was around 18, that's when I felt like, oh, this is something I need to deal with, the insanity of life. So it's been great for me.
I have so much respect for her that I would never want to insult her belief system. That being said, it's very hard for me to understand.
What have you heard about Scientology?
I know too much. I wish I knew less.
All right.
I honestly can't believe Scientology has allowed Rebecca to be on on a reality TV show. But I mean, as you can see, even being thrown into the wolves, thrown into the lion's den on something like a reality TV show like Real Housewives of New York, it's been pretty tame on the Scientology stuff. But again, just absolute nonsense. A Scientologist explaining Scientology in a way where she hasn't actually explained a damn thing about Scientology. You might as well be going to a Tony Robbins seminar or something like that. Now, if you want an excellent explanation about Scientology, watch my interview with Lex Friedman. Yeah, you'll get all the information a Scientologist will never be willing to share. Now, let's switch from the Scientology over the Danny Masterson part of this video. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about here. So let's take a look at this. This article is just from yesterday. Rebecca Minkoff says, disgraced Danny Masterson was incredibly supportive to me when asked about Scientology connection. According to Rebecca Minkoff, Danny Masterson, who's currently serving 30 years to life in prison after being convicted of rape, introduced Rebecca to actresses who were excited to wear her brand. Rebecca Minkoff is clarifying her relationship with convicted rapist and Scientologist in good standing, Danny Masterson, during a recent appearance on the podcast called Two Teas in a Pod, hosted by Bravo reality stars Teddy Mellencamp and Tamra Judge. Rebecca Minkoff was asked about her connection to Danny Masterson, who is also a Scientologist. She said, I haven't seen or spoken to Danny in over 10 years, Rebecca Minkoff said of Danny Masterson. When I started out, he was incredibly supportive to me. I knew no one. What does that mean? I knew no one. She was born and raised in Scientology. She knows a whole host of Scientology celebrities. The fashion designer, Rebecca, went on to say that Danny introduced her to girls and actresses that were excited to wear my product during those early days in her career. Rebecca Minkoff concluded, and that's all I can say. I didn't participate in the case. I don't have details. Interesting. I didn't participate in the case. Well, I don't know why you would have participated in the case unless you were a victim or a witness. But he wasn't just another Scientologist, Rebecca. He was one of your close childhood friends who you knew for decades and decades, and was close enough that he helped you in a major way early on in your career that honestly, it's a little tone deaf to be asked about Danny Masterson, a convicted violent serial rapist, especially when the people he was convicted of raping were other women, other young women who were members of your so-called religion, Scientology. By the way, guys, make no mistake, Scientology is not a real religion. It is a multi-billion-dollar international family-destroying human trafficking cult that covers up for rapists and pedophiles. And so when asked about Danny Masterson, it is very strange to be like, yeah, he was a big help to me early on. I don't have any of the details. But Rebecca, why don't you have any of the details? I can tell you, if there was someone in my life who I'd grown up with, known for a long time, who was very publicly on trial for raping people who were also a part of my friend group, my greater sphere, I think I'd know the details. I think I'd make it my business to find out the details. In fact, Rebecca, I'm calling BS on you. I think you do know the details. But you see, you have to pretend like you don't, because as a good little Scientologist, you're not allowed to admit that Danny Masterson is guilty. You're not allowed to admit that Scientology covered up these crimes. You're not allowed to admit that Scientology blamed and shamed his victims, and that Scientology expelled his victims for going to the police, but didn't expel Danny for all the raping. So in order to not open up that very uncomfortable can of worms, you have to pretend that you just don't really know anything about all of this. And so I repeat, Rebecca Minkoff says, and that's all I can say. I didn't participate in the case and I don't have details. All right, Rebecca, All right. Article goes on. Danny Masterson was charged in 2020 with forcibly raping 3 women in separate incidents between 2001 and 2003. At the time, he and the women were part of the Scientology church. Whereas it's true that the 3 women he was charged with raping were all Scientologists, I want to make it very clear. There were other women who testified as past bad acts witnesses. Some women who at the time didn't even know who Danny Masterson was, didn't even know he was a celebrity, certainly didn't know he was a Scientologist. My point being that no less than 8 women have come forward saying that they were raped, drugged and raped by Danny Masterson. Women from different decades, from different states, from different countries, women in Scientology and out of Scientology. So the length and breadth of Danny Masterson's crimes are not limited to the 2 women he was actually convicted of. Let's not lose sight of what we're actually talking about here. Okay, Danny Masterson pled not guilty to all 3 charges. He was ultimately found guilty of 2 counts of rape in May 2023. Okay, he was sentenced to 30 years to life in prison. He was actually sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences, but yeah, anyway. Let's see, what else do we have here? Rebecca Minkoff has spoken about being a member of Scientology throughout her career and even approached the subject on season 15 of the Bravo reality show. Okay, in a New York Times article, she said, "I'm totally open, but it's not my job to proselytize." The reality star said people are often confused by her beliefs because she identifies as both Jewish and a Scientologist. She says, "I think there's a lot of confusion when people hear the word religion. Immediately you hear that I pray to L. Ron Hubbard. I study it. I take classes, and that's the extent of it, and it's helped me stay centered. I don't have all the answers. When I needed someone, it was a place for me to get some answers." Minkoff added that there is horrific misinformation about the religion. I got to be honest, from all the years I've spent dealing with the internet and the subject of Scientology, I'm hard pressed to come up with any specific examples of misinformation that's out there about Scientology. And for you guys in the live chat or even in the comment section on the replay, maybe we'll do a little exercise. Think of one of the craziest, most over-the-top egregious things you've heard about Scientology and ask me if that is misinformation. And I will honestly tell you if it is or if it is not, in my opinion. I'm someone who believes that being a former Scientologist, talking about Scientology the way that I do and the way that a lot of other people do, it's actually incredibly important to be fair and accurate about the things that are true and the things that are not true, the conspiracy theories that are true and the conspiracy theories that are not true. You notice that she said, don't read the book Going Clear. How does Rebecca Minkoff know what's in Going Clear? How does she know of what is in Going Clear, what is true and what is false? First of all, she should have no way of knowing what's in Going Clear because Scientologists aren't allowed to read that book or watch that documentary. Second of all, if she did watch it, she would have no way of knowing what is true or false other than Scientology coming to her and saying, it's all false. They're all liars. And so what you have is Rebecca, while doing her best to put Scientology's best foot forward, she demonstrates that Scientologists, as a matter of policy and practice, have to and are expected to do nothing but regurgitate and spout what Scientology tells them. Yeah, so let me see. Is there anything else you wanted to say on this? Nope. We got the video. We got the article. That's pretty much it, you guys. Lydia Von Stretchclaw, happy birthday to our Lori Plays. Lori, happy birthday. And thank you for being here in the live chat. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Oh, KPSI Bobby. It's been a while, KPSI Bobby. Good to see you. Aaron, great shirt. Also, Leah, in her interview with Joe Rogan, mentioned the status Kakan. Is this a real thing? Are there sources out there where we can find and read these policies? Oh, this is an excellent question. The status of Kakan in Scientology is a real thing. What it means publicly has been a little bit misunderstood. So L. Ron Hubbard said that the status of Kakan comes from ancient history and in the days of Genghis Khan, I guess. And it was when a warrior had done a particularly incredible act of bravery, they were awarded the status of Kakan, which meant they could be forgiven the death penalty 10 times over. And so John Travolta is known to be a Scientologist who was said to be awarded the Kakan status by L. Ron Hubbard. Now, I think the way Liam might have explained it on Joe Rogan is that you can get away with murder 10 times. Now, I think the idea of being forgiven the death penalty has been equated with getting away with murder. Also, getting away with murder is a figurative phrase that doesn't literally mean being allowed to murder someone and being forgiven. And so the status Kakan is a real thing in Scientology. It doesn't mean you're allowed to go murder someone, but it does mean you've contributed to Scientology's expansion so greatly that you are essentially untouchable in Scientology. That anything a normal Scientologist would get in trouble for, and also realize in Scientology, the equivalent of the death penalty would be being expelled from Scientology, being declared a suppressive person. So it's almost like saying a cat has 9 lives. If you're a Scientologist and you're awarded the Kakan status, technically, you've just been awarded 10 lives. What's also interesting is that under the reign of David Miscavige, none of these statuses are taken seriously. None of these statuses are permanent. And getting on David Miscavige's bad side is a death penalty, no matter what imaginary status someone has assigned to you. And I will tell you that in the 30 years I was in Scientology, and that ended 10 years ago. So in the 40 years since I was first introduced to Scientology, when my mother got involved when I was 4 years old, I have never even once heard of David Miscavige awarding anyone the status of Kakan. It was always some story you heard where L. Ron Hubbard would bestow it upon people. But David Miscavige can't really lower himself to acknowledging someone other than Tom Cruise. You'd think that Tom Cruise would have been awarded the Kakan status. And it's possible that he's got some special secret document from David Miscavige that says that he is a Kakan. But I can tell you as a Scientologist, we were never even told that Tom Cruise had been awarded Kakan status. Excellent question, KPSI Bobby. I appreciate it. All right, guys, that's all I have on this. More to come later this evening. Thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you, as always, to everyone who watches until the very end, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right